Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much to our guests who came all the way from Palestine. I'm Professor Esra Özyürek. I'm the Sultan Qaboos chair in Abrahamic faiths and shared values here at the Faculty of Divinity. I'm an anthropologist, and I'm the academic director of Cambridge Interfaith Programme. And I am very honored to be introducing Sahar Francis, human rights lawyer, and also Rev Ashraf Tannous. So we would like to hear from you about your observations, about what you would like to share with us, and then we'll be asking you questions. So you wanted to talk to us about the human rights challenges. These lots of developments happened since we arranged this meeting. Maybe we can start from there. What are you hoping? What do you think about this peace deal? Does it give hope to you in Palestine?
So first, I'm a Palestinian human rights lawyer with around 30 years experience in human rights, international humanitarian law, and human rights law, and especially with Palestinian prisoners issues. For me, first, this is not a peace agreement. It is a ceasefire agreement stopping the genocide that we were watching for the last 2 years. And I'm afraid we are so far from the peace agreement. And it should be, I think, what happened in the last 2 years should alert us as lawyers, as human rights activists, as people who worries for the international order and the international law system, that the way how it went all these 2 years is very worrying. How come after the Second World War and all the development of the international institutions like the UN, the ICJ, the ICC, and all these bodies that were supposed to guarantee the human rights equally for everyone in the world, and were not able to stop the genocide. We're not able to put an end for the suffering of Palestinian people. So, I mean, if this is going to end in this way, that Trump announced that he's putting an end for a conflict of 3,000 years, I think this is ridiculous. It's gonna undermine the whole concept of whether international law can be really the tool to protect people in this world or not, whether we can guarantee, and not just the Palestinians, the international law was not designed for the Palestinians and for the rights to protect the rights of the Palestinian people. It should work for everyone equally in the world. What we saw in these 2 years, how governments are able to risk even their own countries in order to avoid implementing the international law equally, which means taking the Israeli responsible people about the genocide for justice, or to find them accountable for all the violations, especially after the decision of the ICJ last year on the illegality of the occupation, which paved the way to really prove how all these practices, settlements, expansion, imprisonment, destruction of houses, confiscating of land, and all these practices that they were going for more than 56 years are illegal and should stop immediately. None of the states that have the power in the Security Council or in the General Assembly initiated any activities or any measures, any decisions in order to really put an end for the occupation. So for me, without dealing with the root causes of this conflict, it's not gonna be ending, it's not gonna bring justice for both sides, for both people.
Yeah, yeah. I will start in a different way, because I'm a theologian, I am a pastor. I always like to say and to remind everyone that first and foremost, we are a human being. As Palestinians, we are as well human being, and this is what I like always to start with, and this is what unites us. We all are united under this theme. Why? Because when God created us, okay, in Genesis 1:26-28, say, Na'asa Adam kakadamot no bisalamot. This is the Hebrew version. Let us create the human being in our image according to our likeness, male and female. So God created everybody, everyone, black, white, African, American, blonde, brown, whatever. We are all equal. We are all human beings, and this is what unites us. Okay? And from there, we have to go. So now I am a Palestinian Christian, I'm an Arab Palestinian Christian. This is something that is a privilege for me. That I'm an Arab, I'm a Christian, I'm a Palestinian, and I always say that my Christianity goes back not to 150 years or 500 years since I'm a Lutheran. My Christianity traces back to the time of Jesus, where my ancestors, our ancestors, I believe personally that they were Jewish and they converted to Christianity and they followed the disciples of Jesus and they lived over there. The others went and they preached the good news of the gospel and so on and so forth. But lots of others, they stayed over there. So that's why I like always to remind people that please differentiate between Jewish and Judaism and the Zionist project. There is a big differentiation between these two. Because personally, as I said, I believe that my roots are Jewish. And I can tell you this later on if you want to know how it is. But this is what we believe. So that's why we are an extent of this, nation. So that's why it irritates me when I hear a president, okay, whose mentality is poisoned by this Zionist project, who says, I'm very happy that I was able to solve a conflict which is 3,000 years old. Come on. For God's sake, what are you doing? What are you saying? I mean, is Christian Zionism reached to that far by poisoning the fact and the reality and the mentality of such people to be able to say this issue? And it's not only Mr. President Trump, the other president whose name is Bibi Netanyahu as well. He, since the starting of the war, okay, of the genocide war, it came out. It is a war between David and Goliath. We are fighting he said about the first Chronicles, second Chronicles, first Kings, second Kings, and so on. So he took stories, narratives, and started talking to the whole world, saying this is a religious conflict. So we have to continue what our ancestors started. And this is not acceptable. Recently, in this speech at Knesset, alongside the speech of Mr. Trump, he said, please rise up, Isaac. You are carrying the spirit and the soul of Moses. You are carrying the spirit of Isaiah. How can we as international community believe such narratives? How can? So then I shift back to these human rights issues, because as Sahar said, this human rights issues must be applicable for the whole international community. None is above this law. The law of humanity must be applicable and must be implemented and must be the international law that everybody has to know.
I mean, one thing we're observing in the last 2 years is that the people's engagement with this issue has changed, right? We're observing in the West, but also around the world. There is now a huge Palestine solidarity movement. I don't know, from Greece, a place, well, why would they care so much about Palestine to, this example came to my mind, but all around the world, and also in the UK, also in the US, even in Germany, we see that the public opinion is changing. Despite that, they're not able to change their governments. So what do we make out of that, and what can be done, right? All these people are on the streets doing, issues that were not being seen for decades are now being seen, but it is so obvious.
I don't think we're expecting the change to be immediate. There's nothing in history that can prove that change for governments and for systems of rules and hegemony and control can fall apart in months. In my opinion, what happened is very significant, very important, and sends a very powerful message that when you educate people, when people get to be aware about the violations and the grave violations that are taking place, and they see the hypocrisy of the governments and the fact that the governments are not pushing enough, where the people knows exactly that the governments has the tools and the way how to stop these things and don't want to react. So then they take the lead and goes to the streets and try to affect. And this is what we are seeing. The question now, how we continue, like how the movement continues. It's the same as what happened in South Africa in the 80s. Like it didn't happen in 5 years or 2 years. It took decades till the apartheid regime in South Africa fell. And again, the people around the world started to fight the apartheid much before the governments joined this movement and imposed sanctions on the apartheid regime. So I think we're in a very similar, but still there is differences in the each situation should have its own like path at the end, but we have to learn the lessons as well, and we have to develop according to the current. The social media had the impact which wasn't in South Africa. All these technologies, all these campaigns that, also I think that especially when the people see that, for example, the UK continued to, and Germany continued to offer the weapons for Israel in the middle of the genocide. I think people would realize when they see how many children were killed with these weapons, how you can tolerate this. 20,000 children in this war were killed, were burned in some cases, where the whole families were erased. The scenes were so tough coming out from Gaza. So normal people couldn't tolerate being silent.
To be given if Mr. Putin still.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to take another side of this issue. Well, as Sahar said, today we have a social media. Today, the people are educated. They are more into this system. They can easily go into the videos and watch what's going on. And this, I mean, today's generation, it's not stupid. They know how to deal with things. They know how to see. They can differentiate between real things and artificial things. Okay? So they are able to observe, they are able to see. That's why their humanity feeling and the humanity spirit was moved. That's why they started going outside and in the street and demonstrate and say, Palestine should be free. The Palestinians should be free from the Nile to the from the river to the sea, and so on. So why? Because they are calling, okay, for the liberation, the freedom of this nation of the Palestinians who was being suffering under this occupation, under this colonialism, okay, and they felt that today is the Kairos moment. Today is the moment. Today is the right day where we chant and call for the Palestinian liberation and the Palestinian freedom. That's why these people went out, called, yalla, everything must be finished. So today, for example, last week in London, they had a 600,000 parade, like the demonstration. Now, the government is trying to stop this demonstration because they say, well, the war is over. But today, it is not this, okay, the genocide is over. But now we have to shift our speech. The speech today must be shifted from the speech of blood, of ending war, to the speech of giving the Palestinians their human rights and their full rights. Self-determination, ending of occupation, having their own land, right of return, and so on and so forth. You name it. Today, the speech must be shifted from ending of war, stopping of the genocide, to now it is the time, it is a Kairos moment for changing the system, changing the way of thinking, changing this mentality that these Palestinians are not human beings, dehumanizing the Palestinians. No, we are a human being. We are created in the image of God as others in this world, and we have the right to live. We have the right to decide. We have the right to self-determine, and we have the right to be given a state where we govern ourselves and we have our freedom. At least, as I always say, at least to have an airport in Palestine where we can come. At least. But to come here, I have to go beforehand, before one day, to Jordan, because I'm not allowed to travel over Tel Aviv. I have to go to Jordan. I have to finish my first service, second service in Beit Sahour, then second service in Bethlehem, and I have to rush to Jordan to go and take the VIP service. I have to pay extra money to take the VIP service, because if I take the normal buses, I will not be here. I have to take the VIP service and pay extra money so that I can go to Jordan. For the next day at 7:50, I have to take the British Airlines in order to come in. So basic human rights. And if you want to give us these basic human rights, you have to stop dehumanizing the Palestinians. They have the right to live. They are normal human. We are not human animal. No, we are a human being. And whoever tasted the Palestinian hospitality, they will know what does a Palestinian hospitality, what does a Palestinian hospitality mean, and they will know for sure who are the real Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about international law. I mean, probably we have the most and the best international lawyers as Palestinians, right? For decades, so many Palestinians really fought that war through international law, but also now we see that the international law established after the Second World War is not working, right? So within that framework, things didn't work as they should have. So that didn't succeed, but it looks like in social media, Palestinians showed great resistance, or where they were able to make their case more clear in social media, and that people have seen it and people have responded. But then, yeah, I'm just like rephrasing what you have both said. But then again, there is the danger on this peace idea, like that it may look like things have ended, now things are normalizing. Yeah, so now we'll see if this kind of support for Palestine will continue, where will it go? So maybe I can ask, like, what would be realistic to expect now? Like what could be realistic solution, let's say in the next 10 years?
You know, it's really, as a Palestinian lawyer working for the last 30 years through the Second Intifada and after, and now the genocide, why we always jump over what happened and starts to discuss the day after before letting people grieve, letting people understand and realize what happened, and discussing justice based on accountability. Why no one is discussing what it means to be accountable for a genocide? Like, I'm so, like, really, it's so bothering to see how everyone wants to discuss the day after and to jump over our feelings, the pain, the sorrow, all what we felt in these 2 years and much before as well. Like, people that they lost all their family members, seriously, now they want to discuss who will rule them in Gaza? What's the kind of political structure of the Palestinian state? They don't care about it. They want to just realize what happened, how they lost all their family members. So we will reach there, the final solution. But I think we have to really look into the moment. I mean, we, the Palestinians, have to realize what happened and try to get and rise up from this. It's a very, very harsh experience that will follow for decades to come if we don't deal with it properly, and we are divided and we were attacked in so many different ways. But the world has, I mean, the government has very essential and serious responsibility. You said international law didn't work. This is because of lack of political will. It's not the problem of the system itself or the laws themselves. Or the institutions. It's the lack of political will to make this law applicable on the Palestinian. So I mean the ICJ decision was very clear in what states should do now in order to bring for an end to the Israeli occupation, the reparation process for the Palestinians, and if they don't do so, what's the solutions? I mean, let's not take the governments, but the big corporations that they are involved in investment in maintaining this occupation. The UN listed more than 120 companies all over the world that they are complicit with the occupation. The minimum is to boycott these companies, is to bring these companies for accountability in the different countries using the universal jurisdiction concept. The UK is signatory and respectful for all these international treaties. Why they're blocking Palestinians from bringing legal cases against corporations involved in arms trade with Israel, or Israeli perpetrators, politicals, that they are inciting for genocide. When they visit the UK, they are not supposed to be arrested and prosecuted. I mean, we should deal with the accountability question. This is how we build the future. This is the first step in any reconciliation process. Doing justice with the people who were suffering for 7 and 8 decades, and then we will reach the final stage of the reconciliation.
Yeah, I agree with Sahar. During the war between Iran and Israel, I live in Jerusalem. Okay. Well, it is Beit Sahour, but it is Jerusalem part, so it's very close to Bethlehem. I just want to tell my story.
Yes.
Okay. This story is like whenever there are any kind of missile from Yemen was from Iran, okay, the siren goes off. My children, okay, goes crazy and they want to hide. Okay? So it took them time, and it is still taking them time, to get healed from this fact that a siren will go off. So my wife and myself, we were talking to the children, and we were saying, Baba, imagine the children and the babies and the women and the seniors in Gaza. They have been bombed every day for the last 700 something days. Every day, F-16 above them, every day, heavy bombs. And I agree with Sahar. And they need time to at least, they are traumatized now. This is the catastrophe now after Gaza, or after this ceasing of fire. I hope it's really peace process without the Palestinian to take part. Anyway, this is another story. So yes, they need time. I mean, today I was talking to Sahar while we were coming with the train. A statement came out saying that lots of people were waiting for their sons, daughters, brothers, sisters who lost their traces, okay, and they don't know where are they. They found out that now today they send them dead body, and after researches and after investigation, they found out that these prisoners were shot by the Israelis. They were executed, and they are sent now to Gaza to their families. Right? Until to have hope in something that my son, my daughter, my husband, is still alive, and then you find your husband, okay, in a bag. And Sahar was saying that she threw the telephone. She said they are unable to take a DNA. They are taking photos and sending them to the families to get to know them if they are their family. Anyway, so there are lots of things. I want to go a little bit to the theological side. Today we are in the Divinity School, and I think personally, we have to restate the biblical narrative. Okay. The other day I was preaching from Mark chapter 3, verses 31 through 38. And the story of the mother of Jesus with the brothers coming to ask about Jesus, and they told them, your mother and your brothers are outside. And then he said, well, those who are doing the will of God are my mother, sister, and brother. What is the will of God? The will of God, if you go back to the Old Testament, which is the Torah, and if you go to the Ten Commandments, and if you go to several places where God made it clear, okay, where God made it clear that even in the Old Testament, that God is an inclusive God, not as exclusive God. Made it clear several places. Yeah? And I went back to, where? Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19. You know what it says? I will read it. It says, speak to all, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to all the congregation of the Israelites and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Are we acting this? Are we doing this? Or are we dehumanizing the human being who are created in the image of God? He continues, you can read all of it. It continues, you shall not defraud your neighbor. Ya akhi, consider us your neighbor. If you are following your Bible, if you are following the Old Testament, consider us your neighbor. You shall not defraud your neighbor. You shall not steal. You shall not keep for yourself the wages of laborer until morning. You shall not revile the deaf or put stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God, I am the Lord. You shall not render an unjust judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great. With justice, listen, with justice you shall judge your neighbor. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand by when the blood of your neighbor is at stake. We are suffering. Please consider this. You shall not hate in your heart any one of your kin. You shall reprove your neighbor, and you will incur guilt yourself. Things are said by God in the Old Testament. Is it applicable today in the ground? No, it's not. I'm not feeling it. I'm having lots of problems today, honestly speaking, as a pastor. Since the 7th of October, since the genocide war, I have a problem with my Christian fellows around the whole world. How are you praying the Lord's Prayer today, and you know that your Christians, brothers and sisters, Ismail, not your Christians, brothers, your humanity, your brothers and sisters in Christ, your brothers and sisters in humanity, how come you are saying our Father in your own churches, and others saying our Father in other countries are being in agony? I have problems. You know, I have problem. I say, how come the British, the Germans, because I have a good friend with Germans, you know, I lived in Germany, I have lots of good friends, the Americans, the churches in England, in America, all of these churches, how come you dare to pray the Lord's Prayer and say our Father? At the same time, your brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Africa, everywhere in Asia, okay, in Nigeria, who are as well, you know, being Muslim. How dare you say our Father, and your brothers and sisters who are saying the same our Father are being slaughtered, murdered, bombed, and so on and so forth? You know, how come? I was as pastor, I was in pain. I say, well, this is not the issue that has to happen.
May I, Professor Esra, may I just, because the topic is actually Palestinian Christians, may I ask, please, Sahar, and perhaps also to contextualize. Sahar, by the way, is a Palestinian Christian who studied in Haifa, and she's from the Galilee, and she masters Hebrew, of course. May I kindly ask you if you could tell us a little bit, even if you use the legal framework, even the Israeli legal framework, a little bit about the legal position of Palestinian Christians, those who are in Western Palestine, i.e. the State of Israel, or those who are in the part that was occupied in 1967, so that people can have an idea what happened, even, say, how, if you could take us quickly from, say, the Nakba, the establishment of the State of Israel until now. How could you elaborate on the situation of Palestinian Christians?
Yes, my village is one of two villages who remained in the Lebanese border in the Galilee, the western part of the Galilee, in 48, Sultan and Ma'lia, the two Catholic churches where Iqrath and Sahmata and Bir'ain were destroyed, and the people were mostly internally displaced. And we started with a ruling of the Israeli High Court in 1953, granting the right of the two villagers, like those from Iqrath and those from Bir'ain, to allow them. They requested the army to allow these people to go back to their villages, which never were implemented. Never, ever. just in the last decade, the High Court a bit changed their ruling because the people of these two villages, every while, they went back to the High Court and they claimed the army is not respecting the decision of the court since 1953. But now it's over and they cannot go back to their villages. In the last war in between Israel and Hezbollah, the army, as it used to do in Fasuta as well, you know, in 2006, the army surrounded the village. They were bombing from the areas around the village. So when Hezbollah will fire back, it will hit no matter where, but it could fall in the village. By the way, we never, and this shows the discrimination. Fasuta was never offered any evacuation plan, especially now in this war. My family, my sister, my mother, all my relatives remained in the village in the last 2 years, and there was a gate on the entrance to the village. So any case of emergency that let's assume that Hezbollah was raiding, we were invading, we were be left from the other side, the Lebanese side. As simple as it is. And all the neighboring Jewish villages were evacuated. I mean, there's lots to say about the discrimination, apartheid, hidden apartheid in the state of Israel, enshrined in the legal system. The entry law to Israel is very discriminating because all my relatives who fled to Lebanon like my Palestinian family members who went to Lebanon in 1948, they cannot come back via the airport. Even if they have a US citizenship, they would be stopped, questionnaire, while a Jewish person who was born 4th, 7th, I don't know which generation in New York, he can immediately come to the airport and be granted the citizenship in the same day. Me as a Palestinian woman, Christian woman, if I would be married for a Christian guy from Ramallah, he cannot come to live in the village with me because he wouldn't be granted an Israeli citizenship. If I was a Jewish woman and I married to a UK Christian guy, not Palestinian, he immediately, within 1 year, would be receiving the citizenship. So all these things in university, in the schools for long decades. For example, I studied in a high school, supposed to be a Palestinian high school, teaching in Arabic. But guess what? We studied mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology in Hebrew. Because in my time, there was no curriculum textbooks in Arabic. Up till the 9th grade, you have the Arabic textbooks. But then in the high school, you were forced to study it in Hebrew. Now it's different, but in the universities, till today, the language is Hebrew. Even if you study Arabic language, I mean, if you study 3 years Arabic language, you do it in Hebrew. They lecture in Hebrew. Not mentioning the nation-state law that was confirmed in 2018 that defines Israel as a Jewish state, which meant that the status of the Arabic language disappeared. Up till 2018, the Arabic was an official language in the state, which means in court, as a lawyer, I was able to speak in Arabic if I wanted, and they have to bring a translator. This has disappeared now. So, and Palestinian citizens of the state lived under military control, military regime from 48 till 66. They transferred the same, more or less the same design of this military system into the occupied territories in 1967, and it continues. So they developed all the military orders, all the military court system, and so on. And this is the main tool for the control and the oppression and the justification of all the violations. You know what is really unique, I would say, in Israel is the way how they are able to legalize all these practices and to make them according to the law. So it's very difficult to challenge that this is illegal because it's according to the law. It's according to the law that I cannot bring my Palestinian Christian husband to live with me in Fasud. And so on. Destroying houses is according to the law. Grab, like for example, in the land issues, in the occupied territories, Israel after 1967 kept the British system, the British security regulations from 45, and the Ottomanic land law. Why they kept the Ottomanic land law? Because according to the Ottomanic land law, if you don't work in your land for continuous 10 years, you will lose it, because all the lands in Palestine used to be classified as owned by the king, not private ownership. So what they did in the West Bank, they were forcing the farmers by different ways not to reach the land, so they can prove that it wasn't like worked on with the last continuous 10 years. This is how they were justifying confiscating thousands of dunams in the West, beside, of course, the confiscation for military reasons, that lots of the areas now are in such categories. And this is how they started to build settlements in the 70s. And the High Court legalized building settlements. So according to the Israeli law system, settlements are legal. It's not illegal like in the international law. Torture, for example, Chief Ahron Barak, that you saw him in the ICJ sitting last year, he was the main judge, he was then the head of the High Court. In 1999, he issued a very significant decision about torture, for example, that if you read it, you would believe that torture is really prohibited in Israel, but it's not. Actually, he was the one, in order to justify how interrogators could use these techniques that they call them physical pressure or moderate physical pressure under interrogation, when they claim that it's necessary to obtain information to stop a bombing or ticking bomb scenario. This is how it's called in the legal terms. So then the interrogators are protected from being prosecuted in the criminal system as committing a crime of torture. So this is the way how Israel is actually systematically using torture and getting away with it. In the internal system, if you follow the Committee Against Torture in Israel reports, they report that in the last 15 years, they submitted more than 1,200 cases. No one single case ended up in prosecution in the Israeli criminal system against any interrogator. I can speak hours over hours about the legal system and how the legal system actually is becoming the power of the government in order to put all these violations in the legal framework and present them that we are really the only democracy in the Middle East because we are doing everything according to the law. The law that discriminates, the law that becomes the main tool for the oppression.
Perhaps a little bit from Father Ashraf about the situation of Palestinian Christians in the 67, in the West Bank in particular, and East Jerusalem.
Yeah, well, this is something very annoying because I am someone who is under this persecution. I'm Palestinian, holding a Palestinian ID, holding a Palestinian citizen, and my mistake was that I have fallen in love with a woman who holds a Jerusalem ID, and my problem that I got married to her. Okay. Actually, it was her problem. No, it's a serious thing. We are not allowed to love those who we want to love because there are consequences. So we got married. We lived in Jerusalem. And after we got our first son, we went into legal issues. Your husband is Palestinian. We need you to prove that you are living in Jerusalem. They don't believe that we live in a church because all the electricity is in the name of the church, the water is in the name of the church, the telephone, the internet, everything is in the name of church. I can't put it in my name. So I had to leave and go and rent a house in Beit Sahour with a high amount of money, okay, so that I get the electricity bill with my name or her name, the water, the internet, and the arnona, the tax. I have to pay tax. Okay, the arnona. Council, municipality, council. Exactly. It's fine. It's okay. We pay. And then my firstborn son, he was stateless and without any paper even. Until my wife renewed her ID, Jerusalem, yes, after we went into lots of interrogation and they came and they proved that we live in Jerusalem. I work in Bethlehem area. So I have to cross every day the checkpoint. Every individual day I have to cross the checkpoint. Okay. Luckily, thanks be to God, I have a permit that I'm a religious man. I'm allowed to go to Jerusalem. And thanks be to God, million times, that I am allowed to drive my Palestinian car inside Jerusalem because I'm a religious man. But I'm privileged. I'm talking about myself. There are thousands of Palestinians who are not allowed to do this. So I lived with my wife in Jerusalem for 4 years until I was able to apply the family unification permit because I have to be over 35 years old. Okay? So this is the issue. So finally, my Basil, my firstborn son, he got, after 2 years, he got papers, he got his birth certificate, he got his ID, and he got his travel document, and the other kids, they got it. Recently, they renewed it for 3 months. It ends on the 24th. I hope after this tour they will renew it for me again. So yeah, and this is how it is. We are put in. We're silenced. We are not allowed to speak. This is my case. Okay, of course, torture, not torture, but suffering every day on the checkpoint. I have to go to Jerusalem and come back, bring the kids, and then go to the work and so on. So I have to use, and every time, because I have a Palestinian ID and the Palestinian car, I have to stand to the right. Sometimes, I don't want to go into details. They are very emotional details for me. So I know you want to hear it, but maybe later on. And then this is my case. I mean, for the Christians, no freedom of religion. Palestinians, they can't go from Bethlehem to Jerusalem to worship. They make lots of problems concerning the issue of the Kar Samstag. Kar Samstag is the fire Saturday, the Good Saturday, where the fire comes in Jerusalem to announce that Jesus is resurrected. They give us permit only, for example, they give me permit. They don't give my children permit. So how come I will not go without my kids? So they tell the international community, we are giving Christians permits. So it's fine, here are the list, So they got permits, okay, but they're giving only one person from the whole family. So what will the one person go do to the church alone? So in addition to for example, the taxes. Now today they are forcing the churches to pay the arnona, the taxes, and this is according to the law. It's the churches are not allowed or not obliged to Sahar knows this better than me. They are not asked to pay taxes, and this since long time, since even the Ottoman Empire and so on. The churches are exempted from paying taxes. They want us to pay taxes, and imagine how much money the churches, if they accept, how much will they pay taxes? The attack on the religious people. Several times I was walking with my bishop in the old city of Jerusalem. Settlers come and spat on the cross. They spit on the cross, and the things that they are secure. There are two security persons with them, so nobody can at least shout at them, because if somebody shouts at them or do something or react based on this action, they will be pushed, they will be put aside, they will be brutally attacked. I mean, the Taibe, for example, the Taibe village. The Taibe village is a Christian village nearby Ramallah. Systematically, they are being attacked until today. One of our congregant members, his car and his part of his house was burned. They're going even into the Christian villages, okay? And they are attacking and they are burning the village and so on. So we are not protected. We are not protected, basically. I mean, some people think that because we are Christians and we are protected from the Israelis, they don't really approach us and they give us some privileges. No, they give us the privileges because they are forced, not because they want. They are forced. So lots of things. I mean, the attack on the churches, for example, when they write on the churches, you are a goyim, like goyim is like Gentiles, and the Gentiles are not clean, and so it is really irritating issues. And in spite of that, as I always say, we have this mood, we have this resilience. And this sumud, it comes out of our faith and hope. And this hope and faith, it comes directly from heaven, because we are the Christians who carried the resurrection and the birth of Jesus since 2,000 years until today. And we are still carrying it, and we will keep carrying it until our time.
Shall we open the questions? Yeah.
Well, an impressive witness from our panel. I've never been physically to Palestine, but I had a friend who was a wonderful Palestinian personality. He was a bishop of the Melkite Church. The Melkites are a small Eastern church in communion with Rome, and his name was Hilario Capucci. And he was a really fabulous figure. I met him in Rome several times. He had been imprisoned by Israelis on the charge of smuggling arms to a PLO, way back when the PLO was a fighting unit, and he'd only been released after some time thanks to the intervention of the Vatican. And then he was also on the Marmaris flotilla, which tried to breach the blockade of Gaza years ago, and he was again arrested in prison and eventually released, ended up in Rome, which is where I met him. Was already an old man. But a wonderful fighting figure, which in a way, because, okay, we are in the Cambridge Divinity School. When I think of divinity theology, I think for some reason of liberation theology. Now, I know that doubts about its ideological coherence, but leaving that aside, for me, liberation theology is important because it was a school of theology, school of marriage to action. To an action which had played way back, obviously, in South America. I remember a famous case of Father Camilo Torres, who in Bolivia, he was fought as a guerrilla, and he was found dead. He was shot by the army, Bolivian army, and was found dead, and next to him was some machine gun. Now, I don't want to sound particularly bellicose, but when listening to some of what you very well said about international law and so on, I'm reminding of a great English philosopher, Thomas Hobbes, but also Leviathan, said, treaties without the sword are but words. Treaties without a sword are but words. So lower morality, unless backed by some kind of force, will not lead anywhere. Now, I know it looks as if, from a military point of view, Zionism is unbeatable, is winning everywhere, tremendously well, but I think that unless there is a genuine, actual material engagement of fighting Zionism, I think, we're bound to be trodden upon. The Christians, the Muslims, Palestine, the people, Palestinians. And I think how would this force will take place? I mean, right now, only Iran is doing something, but I got to be very careful what I say here. I don't want to advocate anything radical. I've been to Iran actually twice for conferences. I always enjoyed it, but don't want to talk too much about me. And I said, now, frankly, I'm a retired Anglican clergyman, and I'm very engaged in the case of Palestine, living love. But so anyway, that's my point. I think, I believe unless force is brought to bear upon the oppressors, then we go on oppressing.
Well, thank you very much. I respect your own opinion, but and actually the WCC in one time back in the 1980s, they took this step. But I think
Who is WCC?
the World Council of Churches. Well, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you as a Palestinian Christian. Yes, it needs a sword, but the sword is the word of God, and the word of God is you are a priest, you are a pastor. The word of God is sharp. You see, what is the word of God? Is doing and preaching the will of God. What is the will of God? What I have said today. This is our fight. Okay, I'm not going to fight and shoot. No, this is not. Jesus said, "Don't لا تقاوم الشر بالشر." Don't resist evil with evil. Resist evil with good.
He said many things.
Yes, but believe me, Jesus with his sword, his words, he was able to conquer the empire of the Romans and the empire of death. And this is our fight as Christians. We are speaking, we are touring, we are saying, please wake up. We are not here animals. No, we are human beings. Don't dehumanize us. Okay, so that's why we are fighting. That's why we are touring. That's why we are saying we want to raise the attention of the whole international community that we are pacifists. We want to live peacefully, but peace with justice, peace with equality. I'm welcoming. We will welcome the one-state solution. Believe me. Okay, we welcome the two-state solution, but based on equality and justice, not based on being treated as second-class citizen, as Ms. Francis just said, Sahar just said. She lives in the north of Galilee, but she is treated in a discriminated way. This is not what we want. To be treated equally, and believe me, the moment everybody feels that they are treated equally with just and they are given all the rights as normally human being as the others, everybody will give up this ways of fighting, and they will all fight for the justice and peace based on pacifist and based on peaceful actions.
Yeah, it's a very brief comment. Because earlier on you mentioned Christian Zionism. For me, Christian Zionism is like speaking of a four-sided triangle, contradiction in terms. And I remember what St. Paul says in Galatians: the church is the Israel of God. The church is the Israel of God.
Yeah, but this is the issue. I mean, people are translating and analyzing these terms, okay, and politicizing it. They are misusing and misinterpreting the religion and the Bible to serve their own agenda. This is what's happening today. That's why lots of people are falling into this trap and the tarp of Zionism and the Zionist project and the misinterpretation of the Bible, like Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu and others in the evangelical and even Catholic hemisphere.
Hi, thank you. I'm a member of the state. I welcome very much this presentation. These two, and in particular, its emphasis on the Christian element here, because I think we have enough of the political discussions. Although I do agree that there are moments where there is a need to discuss the politics, and even the politics department. But I really welcome this. What is the Christian lens here? So what is the Christian approach to answering to all the violence that is surrounding the war? Yeah, but I would like to thank you once again for this. And the second point I want to make is not to ask. The Christians are divided in the world, and unfortunately also divided in different denominational versions also in the Holy Land. Is there a hope for some better collaboration, some coalition among the Christian churches that are in the Holy Land to respond in a Christian way to this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean,
disaster?
it is very clear to me that you are not following the statement that the head of churches are always issuing every.
No, I follow them, but I will.
So there is something called
the field.
Yeah. Well, even in the field. Okay. Today's Palestinian Christians not the same as like 20 years ago. Okay. Today they are one hand. They issue statements together. They sit together. They have their own coalition together. All the head of churches and patriarchs and bishops. Every statement, every action is being done together. Personally, I am pastor in churches in Beit Sahour and in Bethlehem. And in both cities, the ecumenical spirit is over there in a very solid and strong, a strong way of doing it. I go with the Orthodox, we do the Virgin Mary rotation. They come, they do the Christmas carolings with us. It's not like a big. What I want to encourage you as Divinity School, please listen to the Palestinians. Yeah, take into consideration, put in your syllabus readings from Christian Palestinian or Palestinian Christian theologians like Reverend Mitri Rahib, like Naim Atiq, like like Patriarch Sabah, like Mundir Isaac, like others who are writing theology, contextual theology, liberation theology. We are the people of the land. We know how theology is written. Okay? I personally, I studied Brueggemann and Moltmann and Schwartz and all of these people, Colin Chapman, you know him, I think. You know Colin Chapman, you know him. I've studied these people at my university. But today, there are lots of Arab theologians who write good theology from Egypt, from Palestine, from everywhere. Take them into consideration because, believe me, we know how to write theology and we know better than somebody who's sitting in the USA, in Arizona, having the whole year, maybe sun, and he's writing about the nature and the geography of Palestine. No, we know how Bethlehem looks like. We know the temperature of Bethlehem in December very well. We know how it will be in Jerusalem in April when Jesus was walking the Via Dolorosa. We know very much very well when we speak about the parable of Tiberius, the parables of the fish and the parables of the farmer and all of this. We know this very well. So this is a call for me to you in Cambridge here, especially the Divinity School. Read, take into consideration, put readings of Palestinian theologians into your own readings because it will make a change in your own thinking. We have Qaboos Palestine, as well a document from Palestinians. Please listen to us.
You will be happy to learn two things. That at the Cambridge Center for Palestine Studies, we completed a whole paper about Palestinian theology. and that next spring we are holding the first international conference about Palestinian theology. So perhaps this is a good start, perhaps.
Danny?
Thanks. I wonder, you shared with us a lot of different things. Is there any one thing you would focus on to share with us that you've seen and experienced from your life that you feel people, say, in the UK don't realize? There might be some things people do realize, but are there things that you feel that people need to hear that they don't currently, they're not aware of as much?
For me personally, I think that you have to be more courageous to speak up.
I think even though you're fully aware about the control system that reflects with the wall and the checkpoints that is existing in the occupied territories, but I'm sure you don't know what it means for the daily life of a Palestinian, whether a woman, whether a child going to his school, or whatever. You cannot plan your day. Even me, as a lawyer that is free to go, because also I have the Israeli citizen, I can theoretically travel all over inside Israel and in the West Bank. If I need to go from my office in Ramallah to Ofer Military Court, which is literally should be 5 to 7 minutes drive if there were no checkpoints. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours. And I don't know if I exit, if I can come back or not. So I mean the life under this system of control. Imagine students that they live in Jerusalem and they want to study and go to Beit Sahour University or Bethlehem University or Nablus Najah University in Nablus, how their life, how their day could look like. In the last 2 months, more than 4 Palestinian workers were shot to death on this wall because, you know, the most of the Palestinian workers are relying on working inside Israel. There's like more than 200,000 people, families that they were relying on working inside Israel. It all was stopped after the 7th of October. So people in the latest couple of months, they can't anymore afford living. So they were trying to sneak into Israel. How they will do it? They will climb on the 9-meter wall in order to jump to the other side, to enter to Israel, to work illegally. They can risk that they know that they could be shot, they could be imprisoned. In the last 2 months, 4 people were shot. Just yesterday, one man, 59 years old, from Zababdi, which is a mixed, I don't know if he's a Christian or Muslim, was shot to death in this chicken. So it's really very, you cannot imagine what it means to live a daily life under the occupation. So the occupation should stop. And you can help us in putting an end for this occupation. I mean, you as individuals, your government, your universities, everyone have responsibility.
And from here, we extend an invitation. Come and see.
Palestine.
Yes.
The Holy Land. Come and see so that you can go and tell. Okay? I will
Again, the stuff I put online, I'm not sure with the design.
try
Check me out.
Try to be interrogated. It's okay.
Oh, I have a question for you. As far as the peace deal, I'm sorry, I do have the question. I feel like the UN conversation was very clear whenever the UN talks happened. And then there were so many changes all of a sudden after so many countries were for the two-state solution. Do you think that from your opinion, your personal experience, your opinion, everything that you've been through, do you think that the peace deal actually interferes with a two-state solution and kicks it down the road further because of the 20-point list in it and the complications involved? Or do you think there's hope that that's not the case? I hope that's a clear question.
I'm kind of think without a sincere political will to put an end based on, again, on full recognition of the Palestinians people of self-determination, right of return, and all these basic things, how you would even have two states in the current reality if Israel is not forced to give up all the settlements and to go back at least to the 67 borders according to the UN resolutions, including East Jerusalem. Can you think about Israel giving back East Jerusalem for the Palestinians? Honestly, this is why I see this two-state solution is a bit ridiculous, actually, especially when it comes from the European countries that they still insist where all the representative offices or consulates sitting in Jerusalem know the reality very well. They have reports on daily basis about the expansion of settlements, about the destruction of the homes for the Palestinians, about Israel since 1971 implemented the Israeli law on the eastern side. All the states are still considering East Jerusalem as part of the occupied territories occupied, but de facto on the ground they see the reality that there's nothing like this. So I mean, okay, maybe they could be creative in how to implement the two-state solution, but again, nothing similar to what happened in the Oslo process. We cannot repeat this experience. This is why we are here today, I mean, on this moment, because Oslo wasn't done properly. And this brings me to your note about the power and the control. At the end of the day, we cannot deny, as much as pacifists we could be, we cannot deny the reality in this world, how it goes, and that the power and the powerful states dictates their decisions. Are we going as young people, especially you as young people, to tolerate, continue living in this reality? And this is why I pointed to the technology and the tools that you have in your hands to oppose this, power shouldn't be just or sword, is not just literally the missiles or the aircrafts that we have. It's the power that we have, for me. And using the power in the correct way should lead us to the better place that I think is available, and we can reach there. But we have to continue struggling against these powers that they want to prevent us. And believe me, what happened in Palestine in the last 2 years, the most powerful thing of it, that it's very clear that it's not just about the Palestinian people. It disclosed that there is something wrong going on in our world that should be changed, because it's about our humanity and future for our children, all in the UK, in Italy, in France. And just think about the surveillance that we as individuals are subjected to from this technology and IT that is very well developed in the last 2 years in Gaza. And believe me, it would be sold for the UK, for Spain, for every country around the world to be used against you.
Yeah, I mean, Gaza must be now today. Gaza is the ethical standard of the whole world. I think so. May I, before before you finish or
Yes.
after you finish, I need to say 3 words, only 3 sentences or 3 quotations.
Go ahead, because we need to be out of the building at 7. So
Okay.
we'll have your words and then we will.
Good.
end.
I want to end by 3. Let me say citaten. Citaten is quotation. The first one is from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He said, "Ein Glaube, der nicht hofft, ist krank." This means, not literally, faith without hope is krank, sick, ill. I tell you, since we are in a theological seminary, faith without hope, without fighting for justice, for peace, for reconciliation, for bridge building, fighting for and with the marginalized, fighting for and with the poor, for their justice and for their equality, is sick as well. You have to ask and question, where is your faith today? This is the first. The second, I say no matter how dark and long the night is, the sun will for sure rise in the next morning. And the third quotation, and I end here, is a quotation from our dear patriarch, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzapello. He spoke after a long time. Finally, he did it. And he said, "Don't tell me to be neutral. Come with me to Gaza. Talk to my people who have lost everything, and then tell me to be and to remain neutral." Thank you.
So much.
I
really
can say
appreciate
that thank you really, and on behalf of the Cambridge Center for Palestine Studies, I'd like to thank truly the Cambridge Interfaith Programme. Thank the director, Professor Esra, the deputy director, Professor Daniel Weitz, Dr. Iona, and for sure, our dear friend and colleague, Professor David Ferguson. I hope that this collaboration is only the beginning, because there is so much to explore in various forms. So thank you very much all, and it's been a pleasure to be with you here tonight. Thank you.
Yes.